This is Robbie Gordon, the sensational 19-year-old from Orange, California. He's driven this two-wheel drive Ford pickup to a class win in the last 3 races in the HDRA Score Desert Racing Series. And this is Larry Ragland, a furniture manufacturer from Phoenix who has 2 open mini truck class wins in the General Tire Chevrolet. And then there is Mark McMillan, 32-year-old construction company executive, 3 victories in the unlimited single-seat classes. They'll be among the favorites today in the Nevada 500. ESPN, the world leader in motorsports, presents Speed World. Today, from just outside Las Vegas, Nevada, it is the first running of the Nevada 500 on the HDRA Score Desert Racing Series. Today's race is brought to you by BF Goodrich TAs and the new all-weather comp TA. Goodrich TAs, we make your car perform. By Ford and your local Ford dealers. Have you driven a Ford lately? And by Quaker State Motor Oil. The big Q stands for quality. Always has, always will. For the first time in HDRA Score history, it's the Nevada 500. Hello again, everybody. I'm Marty Reed along with Jerry Garrett. We're in Las Vegas, just the jumping off point for today's Nevada 500. And when we talk about 500 miles, Jerry, we are going to be doing some traveling around this state of Nevada.
Well, Alaskans like to call their state the last frontier, but I think people from Nevada have an argument to call their state the last frontier. We're really going to go out in the boondocks today.
This is a critical stop on the Score HDRA Points Series, the championship battle with only 2 races to go. Very, very crucial at this mark.
Well, there's a big entry here, Marty, because anybody that's got a chance at the championship has to be here. This is a double points race.
Let's give you an idea of just how important by taking a look at the current point standings. First off, in Class 8, Robbie Gordon has built a 4-point lead over Steve McEachern, a 26-point lead over Frank Scoop Vessels.
In this series, however, only a driver's top 6 finishes count towards the championship. The 2 worst races are thrown out.
Now, Larry Ragland's wins at the Parker 400 and the Nissan Mint 400 have helped him move 12 points ahead of Manny Esquera on the points ladder.
And Roger Mears is in 3rd, but it's really a 2-man chase for this title.
Then there's the controversial 4-wheel drive Nissan of Jack Johnson. He posted his 3rd win of the season in the Fireworks 250 at Barstow, California in July. He's 11 points ahead of Rod Hall, 15 ahead of Jerry McDonald in the overall standings.
Now, the defending champion in the unlimited single-seat class, Mark McMillan, has moved into position for a repeat by virtue of triumphs in the Gold Coast 300, the Mint 400, and the Baja International. With this race and the Baja 1000 remaining, and double points available in both races, he reached the make-or-break point.
Well, stay with us. When we come back, all these teams will have made their way from Las Vegas to the starting line, and that's where we'll join you when we come back for the beginning of the Nevada 500. Marty Reed and Jerry Garrett as we get ready for the Nevada 500, and we are about 55 miles west of Las Vegas in Pahrump, Nevada, 3 or 4 giant steps east of the California state line.
Now, the first car off the line this morning will be the VW-powered race car of brothers Tom and Steve Martin. And Marty Reed is down there to talk with Steve Martin right now.
Okay, just before the start of the race, Steve Martin, you've got a heck of an advantage according to everybody else because you get to go out first and have clear sailing.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a good advantage. We're not going to have the dust, but I've also got a lot of good guys right behind me. So I'm going to have to be on my toes all the time. They got to fight the dust. We're looking for a good, clean run, and, hey, may the best man win. It's a long race.
Well, if the best man is Steve Martin, he'll be a happy guy. They're off and running. Now let's take a look at the course that the drivers are going to be running on for the next 10 or 20 hours. Although this is the first running of this race, the course is much the same as that used during the old Frontier 500. They head north from Pahrump up through some old gold mining towns, Goldfield, Beatty, back around down by Silver Peak. And then when they get back down to Beatty again, they hit the same section of course, run it backwards back down to Pahrump for the finish.
Now, it's expected the eventual winner will take around 9 or 10 hours to finish, and there is an 18-hour time limit for all competitors. Now, here we are at the starting line. The Martin brothers entry number 201 getting the 5-second starting signal. They'll be off and away here soon as the green flag falls, and the Nevada 500 is underway. Now, we'll start one car every 15 seconds. It'll take about an hour to get all the vehicles, all 184, underway.
Now, one of the real favorites today out here is number 202, the Porsche-powered Chenoweth of Gold Coast 300 winner, Brian Collins. Alongside him, Bruce Graves, his business partner.
205, the team of Lenny Newman and Gold Coast Hotel owner Michael Gaughan. With Gaughan at the wheel, the Chenoweth VW, and they're off and underway as they make their pursuit. And you can already see some of the dust starting to come up here at the starting line.
Here's another threat in this race, number 200, the Chenoweth Porsche of Corky McMillan and Brian Ewald.
Still in Class 2, unlimited single-seat or double-seat buggies, we should say. Number 216, the Chenoweth VW, driven by Mike Lund and Bilstein shock technician Buzz Combe. I guarantee if they have any problems with shocks, Buzz is the man to take care of fixing them.
Going to get first-hand technical knowledge today. Number 219, Bob Gordon, goes into the race as one of the leaders in the overall points title. He's 1 point ahead of Challenger class leader Nick Gross and 3 up on Baja Bug pace sitter Harmon Klowitter.
Number 100 as we get into the single-seat vehicles. We talked about this man already in the Chenoweth Porsche. That is Mark McMillan. You can see the concentration as he gets the green flag, and Mark is underway.
Number 107, that's Frank Snook. He's a school administrator from Riverside, California. He's teaming up with young Eric Aris.
Now, this is the view from inside the Budweiser Nissan of Roger Mears with our Bosch cam. If all goes well, Roger will provide us with a driver's eye view of the proceedings throughout the day. And you can see he's just coming up into the staging area, and he'll be working his way up towards the starting line.
There goes number 801, Steve Kelly.
Now, next up will be the 802 of Robbie Gordon and Russ Wernemann, and it is amazing that these guys are even here at all. Team owner Jim Venable explained what happened before the race.
Just this side of Baker, our truck and trailer evidently developed an oil leak, and the driver noticed the oil pressure dropping off, so he pulled over the side of the road, and before he could get out of the truck, the cab started filling with smoke, and then flames started coming into the cab, so he immediately jumped out, and the truck burnt to the ground immediately, and the trailer was we didn't have our race truck in the trailer. It was full of parts, all of our parts. The race truck was behind and being pulled by another vehicle, and it burnt pretty fast.
They have very few parts coming into this race, and so they're going to try and keep things together one way or another. It's going to be an interesting day. Here's the man in third place right now, Scoop Vessels, one of 3 men still in contention for the class title in the B.F. Goodrich Mobile Chevrolet. 805 is Steve McEacher, the third member of this troika, and that is another Chevrolet.
Now we're into the Class 4s. Number 400, Rod Hall and Jim Fricker going off the line.
Defending Class 4 champions, one of the most popular duos in the sport. Then coming up, the 404, the AC Delco Chevrolet of Jerry McDonald and Ben Metcalf, who are looking for their 3rd win of the season. Look at the dust out there already. As soon as they go off the course or off the inside track and out onto the desert, it's a mess.
There goes Jack Johnson in that radical General Tire Nissan.
Well, there's the view from outside with Roger Mears and Tony Alvarez, and as they get ready to start in the Budweiser Nissan, we go inside, and it gives you an idea that it's nice and smooth, at least for the first 10 seconds, but they'll get up here right onto this right turn, and look at what happens. Look at the sun just beating in there, Jerry. So now not only do we realize they have dust, but they've also got the blinding sun.
They'll have that for the next couple of hours at least.
Rocky and sandy in the first 30 miles. It requires all of a driver's attention, but obviously it does not help also to have that sun glaring in your face, because you can see once you get out of the sun's beam, we can see out the front of the cab, and it gives us a little bit of view until the dust comes into play. Now here's Larry Ragland.
He's headed for the unlimited 2-seater class next season with that Chevrolet, or with a modified version of it.
And this is the man who will be breathing down Ragland's backside all day. The Motorcraft Force Ford Ranger of Manny and Tootie Joe Ascara. They are on a 2-race winning streak. Stay with us. We will be back with more of the Nevada 500. at the Nevada 500. Marty Reed along with Jerry Garrett.
And we're looking at Steve Martin, and you can tell from this angle that what he talked about with Marty before the race, no dust, is certainly no problem for him and a big problem for the people behind him.
Wait a minute, though, Jerry. It looks like he has a problem on something, and he's pulling off.
He's going to lose his advantage here in a big hurry. He's obviously got some kind of a problem there.
Martin's misfortune is good news for Brian Collins. That is Brian streaking by. He is now the leader. And here's the duo of Tim and Ed Herbst in the number 203 taking over second place.
Now, it looks like the Martins' problems aren't too serious, but they're serious enough to throw them out of the lead, and that's a big tactical problem for them.
Well, it looks as though it's something in the left rear, maybe a broken shock or just a flat tire. But meanwhile, Collins now has the clear running, and if he's able to let that Porsche engine stretch its legs, it could be a huge advantage for him.
Well, I'm sure that Steve Martin isn't real happy with his situation, but he's been racing long enough to know there's nothing he can do but wait. It looks like he may be running again here momentarily.
Then the guys are climbing back into the car, and yes, it's down off the jack. Meanwhile, Rod Hall is moving out to an early lead in Class 4. He's been without a victory since the season opener at Parker, and he'd certainly like to snap that slump here in his home state. You'll notice he's already got the wipers on to clear away the dust, and he talked about what he expected today.
This race, I think, is going to be really one of the dustiest, siltiest races we've had in a long time. And I'm certainly not complaining about it, but you've got to be careful when you start charging these dust bowls, because at the Mint, there was quite a few accidents from guys charging those dust bowls at 70 miles an hour and not knowing what's in it. And at the start of this race, we're going to have 30 miles of rock, and then we're going to just jump right into those silt beds that I tell you, they just go on and on and on. So the guy's really going to have to be careful not to be overdriving what he can see.
Well, overdriving has never been one of Hall's sins. He's one of the best at knowing exactly how far he can push his BFG Dodge truck.
Well, there go the Martins again. They've only lost a few minutes, but they've lost a critical amount of advantages staying out of that dust.
Well, meanwhile, Mark McMillan is maintaining his lead in the unlimited single-seat class so far. Mark had always been regarded as something of a specialist in Baja races, Jerry.
Well, he does well on the smooth courses, but he's proved himself as a good driver on the rough ones, too. Now, 107, that's Frank Schnook coming along. Oh, he's got a flat tire there in the right rear. That's going to cost him.
It looks as though it's about to separate from the rim as well. First look again at the Class 8s out on course. Steve Kelly seeming to be running strong.
Well, this may be one of the last times you see this truck. He's thinking about moving into probably Class 4 next year, with Jerry McDonald going into Class 7S again.
Robbie Gordon, that was him standing on the gas, and Scoop Vessel's really on the move as well. This has been an eventful year for Frank. He teamed up with truck builder John Nelson. He quit smoking, went on a diet, changed his business emphasis, and also moved into a new home. Now he'd like a championship to cap it off.
Number 804, the Ford of Frank and Jim Mancha. They're a couple of American Indians who make their home in Fontana, California.
Oh, and here is trouble for defending class champion Dave Shop in Class 8. His year has been a series of problems. He and co-driver Larry Maddox are pulled off course, and it looks like they have got problems with the right rear. Now, we don't know specifically what it is, but they'll be waiting for their crew to arrive. And fortunately, that help should not take too long in coming. Jerry Garrett explains why in a Quaker State Quick Fact. Quick Facts are brought to you by Quaker State Motor Oil. The big Q stands for quality. Always has, always will.
When factory teams like Dave Shop's Ford head to the racetrack, there's a lot more involved than just one race truck for one driver. A lot more. There's this whole semi-trailer full of not only race cars, but race car parts. Enough for almost 3 other race cars. There's another whole race vehicle that he has that he uses just to scout the course ahead of the race. It's called a pre-runner. It's a little more comfortable than the race truck, but just as capable. In a 500-mile race like this, crews have a hard time keeping up with their man on the race course, so they use chase vehicles. These are just 2 of a total of 9 that Dave Shop will be using in this race. And, well, I almost forgot. There's a couple of these radio control vehicles here that keep the kids of all ages in the pits happy while Dad and the rest are taking care of business out on the racetrack.
And, Jerry, I bet you that Dave Shop wishes his truck right now was radio controlled and that it was working, because they are still down. And look at this. This is Steve McEachern going by, and it's going to cost them 1 position, because the report we're getting now is that Shop has lost a rear brake caliper.
Well, we're back inside now with Roger Mears, and it looks like he's gotten out of the traffic and the dust for a minute, and whatever he's saying there to co-driver Tony Alvarez seems to please them. So apparently Roger is running well so far. At checkpoint 1, he had a 45-second deficit to make up on Larry Ragland.
Well, they are certainly on a fast section of course right there. And isn't it amazing how nice the picture got also now that the sun is no longer beating into the windshield as well. So things going smoothly for our Bosch cab along with Roger Mears. And whoa, wait a minute. This looks like Roger could be the leader quickly here because Ragland apparently has gotten stuck in the silt. Now, luckily, he's been able to enlist some help to get him back on track. Well, stay with us. We'll find out if they do make it out of the silt beds in time to hold on to the lead at the Nevada 500. Marty Reed and Jerry Garrett, we're back at the Nevada 500, and Larry Ragland is out of the sand and ready to get underway again. And Roger Mears, while we were away, did take the lead while Ragland was down. But Larry really is not concerned with Mears today. The guy he has to keep an eye on is Manny Esquera, and Manny is having problems. Right off the start, Manny ran into the back end of Ragland, who then got stuck in the silt.
Extremely important for me to try to finish ahead of Manny Esquera. Roger Mears, I'll have to let him go if he wants to go out and race, because he's out of the points chase. So he can go ahead and do his thing, but I've got to make sure that I finish in front of Manny. Manny and I are so close in points that it's going to be the next two races whoever beats each other.
Well, the key for Ragland now is to avoid any major mistakes because Esquera is like a bulldog, Jerry. He never quits.
Well, meanwhile, Mears is out front and doing his own thing. Obviously, he's aware of the fact that he's the odd man out with Ragland and Esquera concentrating on each other, but he'd at least like to get his second win of the year for a consolation prize.
Well, victories are always important. It's that time of year. Sponsors are talking about renewals, and although there's no word that Roger is any serious trouble with sponsors, you still like to perform for them. Rod Hall getting all he can handle from Jerry McDonald and Jack Johnson in Class 4. Those three were only 45 seconds apart at the Village of Johnny. But watching Rod here, it's like he's out for a lazy afternoon drive. There's no needless haste and no wasted motion. Consequently, no mistakes either. Very, very rough section of the course.
Well, now, just 15 seconds back, this is Jerry McDonald, and he's putting on quite a show here to keep some pressure on Rod.
This is number 1619, a Bunderson VW driven by Robert Land and James Jones. And look out, they almost blew that turn. It's going to cost them because it looks as though they've lost the motor. At least it's died for the moment. And here comes John Dyke.
Well, fortunately, the truck he's in is sitting high enough that he's able to see that stalled buggy and avoid it. Another buggy might just have mowed in there and plowed into the back of that.
Well, we'll keep our camera here for a second to see if anything does happen because, whoa, talking about exactly what you were saying, Jerry, a close call. But meanwhile, the buggy gets going again, and Land has his car restarted. So no real serious damage done, just a place or two lost.
Now here's the Ford Ranger of Paul Simon, the leader in the mini truck class. He's 8 points up on Willie Valdez and 12 ahead of Spencer Lowe, who we understand is out of the race.
Now another champion coming up, four-wheel drive mini truck champion Mike Leslie. He's got a 24-point lead over both John Swift and Dave Simon. Here he comes. He says the current lead is due to a combination of factors.
I think it has a lot to do with the personnel that we have and a real good truck. And this year I changed to Goodyear tires, and we can actually go a little bit faster through the rocks. When people slow down, it's a little bit easier to get by them.
723 is the Toyota of Mike and Pat Falkowski, a father-son team that debuted this truck at the Colorado 300, this time a year ago. Boy, everybody is plodding through this area. It's awfully rough. Whoa, this is definitely a bad day for the Manka brothers. It looks like the 804 is on its lid and out of the race.
Well, the drivers seem to be okay, but we can't say the same for the vehicles. We don't know what happened, but it looks as though they got out of shape on the high-speed road here and wound up spinning or flipping. They came to rest upside down and facing the wrong way.
So the day is over for the 804. Meanwhile, it looks like there are no problems for Walker Evans in the Dodge Dakota. Hasn't been the best of seasons for Walker. He's right there with Scoop Vessels and Robbie Gordon in a battle for the lead right now in this race. Let's go on to the radio and see if we can get a word with Walker Evans.
But things are going along all right. We've got a lot of dust ahead of us, a lot of hard work, but it's still early in the race.
Have you had any trouble so far? Any trouble?
Well, I can't hear you, but once we turn this corner up at Tonopah, we'll start really seeing how the race develops. We'll get after it pretty good then.
Good luck. We'll talk to you later.
Thank you.
Well, when Walker says he's just driving, he doesn't mean he's taking it easy. You really can't relax too much on this course and hope to be around at the finish. The drivers will tell you that most of the rocks and all the silt beds in the state are on this course. What that means is if you turn the steering wheel wrong, you can end up with a flat tire or worse.
Well, there's one of the buggies going flying by, and here is another one, the 200 of Corky McMillan. He has picked up a couple of spots and is now running 4th in class after checkpoint 1. Whoa, talk about rare sights. That's Robbie Gordon off course with a flat tire. Robbie is manning the jack while Russ Wertemont changes that tire.
Well, Gordon's flat is giving an advantage to this man, Scoop Vessels. He's got a little more cushion now. He's obviously running strongly, which is fortunate indeed because Walker is coming after him.
Stay with us. We'll be back with more of the inaugural Nevada 500 right after these messages. Back at the Nevada 500, Marty Reed along with Jerry Garrett, and this is the wash that runs through the town of Beatty, Jerry.
This is our first series of pit stops through here, Marty, and coming out right now is Scoop Vessels, and taking the lead in Class 8 is Walker Evans. Now, Scoop won't have to follow him too much longer because the Goodyear pit that Walker's going to stop at is just down the road here, and when Walker goes in for his regular service, Scoop's going to take the lead, and there's the Goodyear pit right there, and there goes Scoop into the lead.
So Walker Evans into the pits, making his first stop, and so far it's turned out to be an interesting battle. Now, way off into the distance, you can see Larry Ragland in the General Tire Chevrolet. He was 14 minutes behind Roger Mears at Beatty because of those early problems we showed you. And now, look at this, he's slowing down, Jerry, and stopping.
Well, we're getting an idea why here. There's a bunch of vehicles parked here. They're trying to negotiate this hill. It's about 6 miles north of Beatty, and it's a really steep grade, and the more cars that go up here, the softer that stuff gets and the harder it is for those cars to get up, especially the two-wheel drives.
Well, Ragland's going to give it a try. He's giving it a run. He's going to have to give it an awful lot of gas. You can hear the engine laboring. Look at the rocks and the dirt being kicked up as well by the rear wheels, and that's the problem. The terrain is so loose that if you get off the gas for even an instant, you're in trouble, but it looks as though Larry is going to be successful and make it over.
Now here's Manny Esquera back in the pit at Beatty. Crew Chief Bill Strop said this early incident we mentioned has forced them to replace the transmission cooler, oil cooler, and several other items, and Manny is now an hour behind Ragland, but lucky to be even that close.
Well, back underway as Manny Esquera and the team will try and regroup, and meanwhile, back at the hill, the fun is continuing. That's the Jeep of Mike Leslie, and the Ford Ranger of Dave Ashley on the left, and that's Dave Simon and John Johnson in the Ford Ranger starting up the hill right now.
Now Simon's got the transmission in low range, and he's hard on the gas, and it looks like he's going to make it. There on the left, though, coming up, we see one of the buggies that didn't make it, however, and that's going to cause a little bit of problem for some of the other vehicles behind him.
Well, meanwhile, look at here. This is Leslie, and it looks as though he's going to try and make it out. Now, he's got four-wheel drive. You think it would be quite easy for him, but listen to that truck just laboring. You know, this hill could make or break a number of the race teams. I mean, you could be hung up here for hours and literally just lose the race in this one hill, and Leslie is going to make it up and over the top. Meanwhile, here's the number 100 of Mark McMillan. He had some minor problems early, but he was a minute up on Bud Feldkamp and Ron Gardner at Beatty.
Now here comes number 217, Tevin Merchurian and Tom Martin, who's no relation to the Martin brothers, and they're about 15 minutes behind Brian Collins at Beatty.
Now this is Scoop Vessels. He's continuing to have a flawless day. Officially, he was 2 minutes ahead of Walker Evans, 17 minutes up on Robbie Gordon at Beatty. Now, here we go again.
It's rush hour traffic time, and everybody's taking a new and novel approach to getting up here, and it's just getting worse and worse. The cars aren't able to get much of a run at the hill, and that's costing them valuable attempts to get up here.
Well, this is the Toyota of Mike and Pat Falkowski making their run, and you notice the guys at the bottom of the hill scrambling to get out of the way because you get up some speed and hit a rock or something, you could slide into one of the other vehicles, and it looks as though the Toyota is going to make it up and over the hill because our camera position is near the crest of the hill.
Right here, if I were you,
Our cameraman didn't want to walk down the bottom there and have to walk back up.
Look at this poor soul. This is one way to definitely get up the hill. Leave the car. The heck with it. We'll just get up here to the top when it catches up. And, oh, my, that's Jack Johnson's vehicle. Look at the damage that he suffered there, Jerry.
He must have charged through some dust there and got in some problems. Oh, he's lost the left front fender as well as got damage on the right side.
Well, the little buggy in front has caused him a problem. He's not going to be able to get there. We also have Paul Simon. Let's listen in on the radio and see what's going on.
BFG relay, do you copy? This is Simon and Simon 746. BFG relay, you have a record there of the Simon and Simon race channel. I need that frequency over. 151.835. Can you try and relay that message one more time that I'm stuck on the hill outside of Beatty? I need the four-wheel drive assistance, over.
Well, you can get an idea just how frustrating it is. They just have to sit there and wait for help to come. You can hear all the engines revving in the background. Now, that is Rod Hall as he is up and over and cruising along.
This is number 403, the Dodge of Buddy Renault and Bill Donahoe. You'll notice the left front fender on their truck is missing. And from what we understand, Reno lost it in a altercation with Jack Johnson that we saw earlier.
And that's the 404 AC Delco Chevrolet of Jerry McDonald, followed by John Dyke again.
Well, that Jeep was rebuilt after suffering a bad crash that we showed you in our Baja International show.
Well, meanwhile, this is Roger Mears back in the dust again. And in a situation like this, you have to marvel the skill of these drivers in avoiding any serious mishaps. Stay with us. We're going to be back with more after this. Back at the Nevada 500, Marty Reed along with Jerry Garrett. This is the number 222 Raceco Porsche former stock car driver, Danny Lettner and Ronnie Brand.
Now, while we take a look at them, let's bring you up to date on some of the competition out here in the other classes. Here we have reports of trouble for Walker Evans. He suffered a broken steering box just after leaving that pit stop in Beatty. Steve Kelly got stuck in the same silt bed that Ragland did. Steve McEachern clipped an embankment just before Beatty and suffered extensive front end damage. Robbie Gordon was almost sidelined by a fire in his pits caused when gasoline spilled in the hot brake rotors. Jerry McDonald reported is running out of brakes, and Class 7 leader Roger Mears is down with a broken rear end.
Unbelievable. That's the second fire in less than a week involving Robbie Gordon. Luckily, this time, no one seriously hurt. Now, that's the 216 of Mike Lund and Buzz Combe. And they've had a variety of problems early. They're running 13th right now in Beatty. Now, this is Jack Johnson, what's left of his Nissan on the highway, and obviously going very slowly. Now, this is in the town of Silver Peak, so we should tell you that there is a 25-mile speed limit through here that they are enforcing because it does run right through the heart of town.
I don't know if he could go much faster than 25 if he had the opportunity right now.
Yeah, we have reports that he's having a bit of transmission problems and possibly a broken A-arm as well. So let's bring you up to date and give you an idea where we are on the course. We just passed through the town of Silver Peak, heading up towards the top end, Tonopah and Goldfield. Now, back in the early years of the century, the attention focused on central Nevada, which is rich in mineral and ore deposits. And Tonopah and Goldfield were the major cities of the day. Now, legend has it that about 80 years ago, a prospector named Jim Butler picked up a rock to throw at his stubborn donkey. But when he noticed the weight of the rock, he decided to have it assayed instead. And Butler had accidentally discovered one of the richest silver deposits in history. And that brought the prospectors to Tonopah. The boom is long since over, but mining is still important.
Silver was the reason we're even sitting up on top of this mountain at 6,200 feet, and we're 15 miles away from the nearest water hole. So wherever they found silver, that's where they made the camp. And we're 6,200 feet above sea level. Our population right now is about between 4,500 and 5,000 people. And we're back into the mining business again because Cypress Mines has bought the Anaconda property. So it looks like the mines are going to boom here in Tonopah again.
Now, revenue is also generated by the nearby nuclear testing facility and, believe it or not, tourism. This hotel was once stalked by the great Jack Dempsey.
In the 30s, Jack Dempsey was a bouncer here in one of the local bars, a place called the Big Casino. And actually, he bounced in 3 or 4 of the bars here in the community. But he was quite a brawler, and at that time he was just getting started, and he had some fights in the local bars. And he also traveled and worked out in some of the other places in rural Nevada, Goldfield, Ely, and some of these places.
Speaking of Goldfield, this is Sacred Heart Cemetery. It's now abandoned and in disrepair, like much of the city, which was ravaged by fire in 1923. But in its heyday, Goldfield outdid even Tonopah, its neighbor to the north.
Some of the psychics have told stories of ghosts and beings and such. I have never seen them, but things happen over there, and it's kind of exciting. It's almost charismatic.
Talk about ghosts. Well, Wyatt Earp once worked here as a pit boss in the Northern Saloon, which was owned by fight promoter Tex Rickard. Virgil Earp served as deputy sheriff. John L. Sullivan also fought here besides Jack Dempsey, as well as battling Nelson and Joe Gans.
Historically, Goldfield was the largest city in the state of Nevada. In 1909, we had 21,000 registered male voters. We were the largest city. Las Vegas had a population of 200. Gold was the general product. More gold was taken out of Goldfield per ton than any place in the world to date. And we shall rise again.
Believe it or not, Rickard also staged some auto races on a dry lake bed just outside of town. Meanwhile, back to the racing action. This is Robbie Gordon in the pits at Tonopah. It looks like the hood is missing, so is the windscreen. And Robbie, we are told, has rolled the truck near Silver Peak. Let's get a word with him.
We're running in the dust and just, driver error. Severe.
Start it up. Run through the gears.
We're fine. We're going for it. We'll finish.
We're okay.
Well, Rob's being a little tough on himself because we heard from his crew that the brakes went out on him at about 100 miles an hour, and he was lucky to save as much of the truck as he did. He went off a cliff as it was.
Boy, and the damage on this thing is severe, and you're right, Jerry. For them to even be running right now sounds to be a bit of a miracle. And notice that Robbie doesn't even have a windscreen in there, nor does he have goggles. So obviously they've got some work cut out for him. The one reaping the benefits from Gordon's misfortune is Frank Scoop Vessels. He really doesn't need any help today. He has not had a moment of downtime other than routine pit stops. And our report show him leading the class by almost an hour over Steve Kelly, with Gordon a few minutes farther back beyond that.
Well, that pace is good enough to put Scoop in the top 5 overall at the moment with very little traffic in front of him. He's going to be extremely hard to catch.
Stay with us. We'll be back with more of the Nevada 500, but first this. Back at the Nevada 500, Marty Reed along with Jerry Garrett. We're looking down at Scotty's Junction, and this is race leader Brian Collins on his way back to Beatty. Jerry?
Now, we understand from officials, Marty, because of that traffic jam up in that canyon, that there's still vehicles on the portion of the course that Brian's going to go back down on. And if they aren't out of there by the time he gets there, they're going to have to stop him.
Well, it looks as though this is a routine stop except for a little adjustment. Let's go to Jerry Garrett and find out if there is anything wrong with Brian Collins' car.
Any problems at all? Any downtime?
Just the car's loosening up, that's all. Other than that, no problems.
We understand you got about a half an hour lead.
Well, Jerry, I don't think Brian meant to be rude, but when they said go, obviously he wants to keep that half an hour advantage. Boy, he pulled away.
Well, here's the man that's chasing him, defending class champion Corky McMillan and his Porsche-powered Chenoweth. Things are going pretty well for Corky, but understand that his son, Mark, is having some problems. He's trying to limp home, but still hold on to first in class with a broken rear torsion bar. That's going to be tough.
That definitely does. But meanwhile, the question will be, can Corky McMillan reel in that 30-minute time differential on Brian Collins? Because Brian has clear sailing right now, at least until he gets up to Beatty. This is 222 again, the Danny Lender, Ron Brandt Raceco Porsche. They've been quietly going about their business. Right now, they're within 15 minutes of McMillan in second place. So they're currently running third, just 15 minutes back of Corky McMillan.
Can't even see the dust up there, though. That's what 15 minutes translates into on this course.
That's for sure. Now, Scoop Vessels just keeps breezing along, putting distance between himself and the pursuers. Let's go to John Nelson on the radio.
Did you expect it to be this smooth a race for your team?
Yeah, we sure did. It's just gone like clockwork.
Because it's been a war for everybody else. Frank Manco ended up on his lid. Robbie Gordon rolled his car. There was heavy damage by Jack Johnson and his...
just keeps on coming, even though he keeps leaving parts of the truck behind him.
Boy, you can't even tell that that is a Ford right now, but boy, it sure sounds good, and amazing how these two guys have put it together. The 103, the Raceco VW of Bill and Brian Church, and if our reports are correct, this father-son team has overtaken Mark McMillan now to lead in Class 1.
That kind of looks like a tank, doesn't it?
Well, I'll tell you right now, that's what you need out there with all the rollovers that we've seen today.
Well, Rod Hall continues to have things his way, too, because Jerry McDonald has run into some trouble and dropped back. The brake problem we mentioned earlier, McDonald having has led to some transfer case problems. We understand he's been down again for a transmission change.
Now, this is Dave Simon and John Johnson in the Ford Ranger. They're another team that has avoided serious problems today. They're about an hour in front of Mike Leslie's Jeep because Leslie's co-driver, Jim Wright, rolled that truck near Lida Junction. So again, another vehicle going over.
Swallowing up that dust there. Looks like Larry Ragland is going to be successful in his attempt to beat Manny Esquera. Manny hasn't been a factor at all since that early race collision with Spencer Lowe. Roger Mears continues to lose more time. He's got a broken brake rotor now after replacing the rear end earlier. Just loafing along.
It probably doesn't feel like loafing inside. In fact, speaking of inside, we are back with Roger Mears again underway, giving us the driver's eye view of some more dust. And up and over a couple of jumps, a left turn, a right turn, look out for the brush. And again, not what you'd call loafing along when you're on the inside. And this is what it looks like through the same stretch on the outside.
Now here's number 549, the Unlimited Baja Bug of Gary Bates and Don McAfee out of Hesperia, California, and they are the class leaders.
And this is 505, another Unlimited Baja Bug, driven by the brothers Hartmut and Wolfram Clawwitter. Now, they've dominated the class this season with 5 wins, but they lost a lot of time today with a broken stub axle early in the race. And as they motor along, things look to be going extremely well as they are cruising through some of the heavier silt beds. Well, whoa, look out. We've got trucks stuck in the silt beds in front of them, and they're off to the side of the course, and it looks as though they are now in some trouble, as another truck has been broken down and is caught right in the middle of the silt bed.
That's the Jeep of Lowell Arnold and Tom Kepler. They run in the unlimited four-wheel drive class along with Rod Hall. Clawwitter was able to avoid any contact there with either vehicle, but now he's stuck axle deep in that silt. That's going to be tough for him to get out.
Look at this, Brian Collins. Not a happy camper, I guarantee you right now, because this definitely is not a planned pit stop. They are replacing the right front spindle on the car. Let's try and get a word with Brian Collins.
Spindle just backed off and took a hike. But my biggest concern is they stopped us for 15 minutes up at the road crossing. They let McMillan go. And he's coming right now. And
Brian, you're only going to have one side front brakes.
I know, that's fine.
But no, you're going to have brakes. You're making it work.
Okay, hurry up. Let's go. Let's get going. Come on, let's feed him, guys.
Well, that 15-minute stop Collins was talking about is a result of that traffic jam that you mentioned earlier, Jerry. And it turns out about a dozen or more drivers gave up getting over the hill, drove back down and around. So that means between that 15 minutes and now this downtime, this man, Corky McMillan, is breathing down Brian Collins' throat. Stay with us. We'll be back to see if he can catch him at the Nevada 500. We're back at the Nevada 500. Marty Reed along with Jerry Garrett, and work continues on Brian Collins' car as they try to get him underway again. It must seem like an eternity, Jerry, waiting to see if they can hold on to this lead.
Well, Brian's very lucky that he broke down this near the highway. As we told you earlier, chase crews are out here every place, but it's hard for him to get to some of these locations, obviously.
Well, Brian is underway again. It's a good thing nobody tried to interview him again also, because I think he would have run you over. Here is the man in second place closing in, Corky McMillan. By our count, he is about 2 minutes unofficially behind Brian Collins. And if he can manage to take the lead, you can bet there will be some interesting conversations between the Collins camp and race officials about that delay at Beatty. Now, look as our camera pulls back, Jerry. The dust up ahead, that has got to be one man, Brian Collins.
Well, that's nose to tail in desert racing, I'll tell you. That's 2 minutes right there.
Well, here is the 803 of Steve Kelly. He has slipped from second to third. That means that Robbie Gordon has now moved in front of him, but the Chevrolet is still sounding strong as he heads for the finish.
Now, right behind them, the 849, the Chevrolet of Mike Sherringa and Jeff Bonnet. They're running 4th right now, and if they keep that up, that'll be their best finish ever.
And I can't tell you how tough it is to perform well as an independent. Well, this is no independent team, but boy, what a day these guys have had. Robbie Gordon in the well-used Ford. Let's check in with the team and see how they're doing.
Robbie Gordon, Jim Venable, this is Marty Reed. You copy?
ESPN talking to 802, over.
Yeah, Jim, listen, we want to congratulate you guys. This has been one heck of a week for you all. Not the kind of day, but you are running in 2nd place right now.
Yeah, we've had a rough day. We rolled it, had a few bad drops, and started, burned our race center down coming. But things are looking good for us right now. We're on it. We're going to try and get the leaders, over.
How is the truck handling now? Because to tell you the truth, it looks a mess.
The truck's handling very well. It's really running good. I think it's all commenting.
Well, you're coming up on your last pit stop, and I know that you want to get set up for that. We'll let you go and talk to you at the finish line.
Unbelievable performance for these guys. I mean, they have just done a super job, and look at them, they're still talking about winning this race.
Well, somebody else who's talking about winning, the mini truck leaders, Pat and Mike Falkowski.
And then here is Larry Ragland, who looks en route to victory in the General Tire Chevrolet. Let's see if we can get a word with co-driver John Hertzberger.
Okay, this is 704. Looks like we're in 1st place by probably 25 minutes. We last checked. Well, looks like Roger Mayer is lightning back on our tail, and we got to keep hooking on here. He's out to get that first. I think Manny was out at the beginning of the race, but I think he's back in, but I think he's a little farther back.
Well, you get the impression that sometimes they have to take their fingers off the button to hold on to something else.
Well, if Ragland can hold on to this win, he's obviously going to put a lot of points pressure on Manny Esquera for the 1,000.
Well, this is the finish line back at the Speedway, and that is Brian Collins. He has managed to hold off Corky McMillan's challenge, and it looks as though he will be able to claim the overall victory as he makes the final turn down onto the dirt track oval section. He'll have to make a stop right here before the officials, and then he'll get the checker flag. And a little further, Brian. There it is, the checker flag, and your winner, Class 2 and overall championship, it's going to be Brian Collins. Now, here is Frank Scoop Vessels completing a trouble-free run that will, according to our figures, give him 4th place overall, which is a tremendous performance for a Class 8 vehicle. And look at this truck. After all the other damaged vehicles we've seen today, it looks like this thing just came out of the showroom and got a little dirty through one mud puddle. Whoa, the big congratulatory champagne salute. That is Brian Collins out of the car as he gets a hug from Edna Lott, who is now the head of HDRA. And let's go to Jerry Garrett for an interview with Brian Collins.
Well, Brian, you had a front-running run all the way today, just about, didn't you?
Yeah, I owed all of my guys who worked on the car. I had problems about 100 miles out. About 7 miles out. Front spindle just came off. Hey! Yeah. And it just happened that the Herbst boys had tranny problem, and then we have identical cars, and they were right there. They followed me all the way around today from Beatty, and they were helping out, and they saved my life. We took their spindle off their car, and it helped me get the overall.
Well, this is Robbie Gordon. Believe it or not, after working hard all day to get there, he has missed a turn just before the Speedway and the finish line. That necessitates a quick U-turn, and he'll be back on course. Meanwhile, Scoop Vessels is back in the pit area, and we'll get a word with him.
Good job, mister. Good job. Nice having you along all day, John. Good job, Scoop. Thanks, you guys. I like you, man. Good pits. Good pits. Unbelievable. In and out. I don't even have time to rest. Poppy's going, come on, let's go. Man, that's great.
How'd the race go for you?
Robbie's car is great. Oh, the race went great. No, we didn't have one flat tire. The only time we stopped was for fuel, and I think we were out every time with a within like 30 or 40 seconds, and we just kind of kept going. Could have lasted all day like this.
And
Here comes Robbie Gordon. We're told the reason he missed that final turn is that he lost the brakes again and coming to a creeping stop. Right, in fact, no stop. The guys are trying to grab a hold of the bumper. Stay with us. We will be back to check the final results at the Nevada 500. But first, this.
This is ESPN, the Total Sports Network.
Marty Reed and Jerry Garrett back with you as the sun sets on the Nevada 500, the inaugural event here. And let's take a look at the final standings, Jerry, as we go down through the classes. First off, in Class 1, the Church team of William and Brian coming in front of Mark McMillan.
Now, Mark had too many problems today to keep up there in the lead, unfortunately.
And, of course, Class 2 and our overall winner, Brian Collins. In Class 1, 1600, Doug Fortin Jr., followed by Class 3.
Well, Matt Pike took a big victory there. That's one of the slower classes out here, but he did a good job today getting over that hill. It got a bunch of guys.
And in Class 4, the venerable Rod Hall, that pacing really paid off, while in Class 5, Gary Bates and Don McAfee break into the winners column. And in Class 5, 1600, it's Robert Knight and Leroy Hansen.
And in Class 6, G.W. Moser takes the victory. Class 7, Larry Ragland holds on to that big win and puts a lot of pressure on Manny Esquera going into the Baja 1000.
Class 7S, it's Mike Falkowski up front, followed by David Simon in the Class 7 4x4. And that brings us, of course, to Class 8.
We should mention that David's brother Paul got caught up in that traffic jam in the canyon, lost his Class 7 class leadership in the mini truck battle, and he's really hurting in the points right now. Class 8 is Frank Vessels, as we showed you earlier. Class 9 is Nick Gross, and Class 10, Craig Watkin.
And our winner in Class 14, Donald German. Now let's take a look at the updated points. In Class 1, even though he didn't win, Mark McMillan still holds a commanding lead over Tom Koch.
And with that victory today in Class 4, Rod Hall moves into the lead ahead of Jack Johnson, who had so much trouble.
In Class 7, 11-point margin now for Larry Ragland over Manny Esquera, while in Class 8,
well, Robbie Gordon had his 4-race win streak stopped here, but that second place gives him the driver's seat in Class 8.
So get ready, because our next stop will be the Baja 1000 as we conclude our action today on the Nevada 500. Today's race has been brought to you by B.F. Goodrich TAs and the new all-weather comp TA. Goodrich TAs, we make your car perform. And by Quaker State Motor Oil. The big Q stands for quality. Always has, always will. And by Budweiser, Beechwood aged for that clean, crisp taste. For all you do, this Bud's for you. Special thanks to Jim Short, Larry Ray, Spirit Racing, and Unit N Corporation of America. For Jerry Garrett, this is Marty Reed. So long, everybody.